Thank you for tuning in. This is Lance, your host of Strange Bites, where we take real science and wrap it up in a creative story and serve it in 15 minutes or less. If you're enjoying the show, please hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Give me a follow on social media. And now, let's jump into the next bite. In episode 43, we're not chasing ghosts or ancient legends. We're chasing something real. Something happening right now in the humid forest of West Africa. Something that sounds a lot like it could be the very first rock concert on Earth. Let's drop ourselves deep in the remote woodland in Guinea-Bissau. The air is thick with the buzz of insects and the calls of hidden birds. You push through vines and suddenly you see it. A massive tree, its trunk covered in old scars. At its base, a neat pile of rocks, dozens of them, accumulating like some forgotten offering. No obvious reason, no nuts scattered, no fruit knocked down, just stones. And every so often, from somewhere in the canopy or distance, comes a deep resonant thwack, followed by wild whoops that carry for kilometers. What you're witnessing isn't random, it's deliberate, it's repeated. And it's been going on for years, maybe even decades, in specific groups of our closest living relatives, chimpanzees. This is the strange and beautiful story of accumulative stone throwing, a behavior so intriguing that scientists are still unraveling its meaning. And yes, some have playfully called it the chimps' version of rock music. Stick around because the truth is even more fascinating than the mystery. This is episode 43, Rockstar Chimps. Let's set the scene properly. This isn't happening everywhere chimps live. It's been documented in just 4 populations of Western chimpanzees across West Africa, in places like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Liberia, and Côte d'Ivoire. These are Pan troglodytes varus, one of the subspecies of our closest cousins. Field researchers first started noticing the strange markings and rock pilings around 2010. Trees with hollows and prominent buttress roots showed repeated impact scars. Piles of stones sat patiently at their feet. It looked almost like ancient cairns humans build to mark special places, but these weren't made by people. Scientists from the Pan-African program set up camera traps. What they captured was extraordinary. Adult male chimpanzees would approach these specific trees. They'd often pick up a stone already lying in an existing pile. They'd grip it and hurl it with real force against the trunk. Thwack! The sound rings out, sometimes long and resonant, like a deep drum. Then the chimp lets loose with a classic pant hoot, a rising whooping call that can travel far through the forest. Sometimes they add buttress drumming, slapping or stomping the tree's wide roots with hands and feet for extra percussion. Then they walk away, only to return days, weeks, or months later. Same tree, same ritual, over and over. One of the coolest details? These chimps seem picky about their instruments. Research shows they prefer trees that produce richer, longer-lasting, more resonant sounds when struck. Lower frequencies that carry better and feel more musical. It's not just any tree. It's the ones that sing back. Here's where it gets really intriguing. This isn't a one-off or instinctive thing everywhere. It's limited to certain groups. That's a hallmark of culture in animals. Behaviors that are learned, shared, and passed within a community rather than hardwired into every individual. These sites aren't temporary either. Recent fieldwork in 2026 by researchers including Robin Nakano and Amy Collin from the University of Victoria revisited locations first identified years earlier. Many of the same trees and stone piles were still actively used more than a decade later. The chimps keep coming back, generation after generation, maintaining these acoustic landmarks in the landscape. Scientists don't have one single answer yet, and that's part of what makes it so deliciously mysterious. It could be long-distance communication. The combination of loud impact, the whooping calls, and the drumming creates a powerful signal that says, "I'm here. I'm strong. This is my area." It might help coordinate with others across the forest or advertise to potential mates or rivals. It might be a form of display or even something closer to ritual or play that became tradition. The stone piles grow like markers, almost symbolic. Some researchers wonder if these sites hold special meaning within the chimps' territory, like natural monuments. What we do know is that it's not about food. There's no foraging advantage here. It's stone tool use happening in a purely social context, something relatively rare in the animal world. And it's mostly the guys doing it. Adult males are the primary performers, though youngsters have been seen practicing or playing around the piles, hinting that the behavior might be learned by watching the elders. Recent studies using camera traps and audio recordings are digging deeper, trying to figure out exactly who's watching when a male performs, how others react, and whether different communities have their own styles. The social side is still being decoded, but there's a darker note to the story. These cultural traditions exist in fragile places. In Guinea-Bissau and neighboring regions, industrial bauxite mining is expanding. It threatens the very forest where these behaviors unfold. If the habitat disappears, so do these living traditions, the stone piles, the chosen resonant trees, the knowledge passed between chimps. It would be like losing an irreplaceable chapter of primate heritage. Now let's zoom out and ask the bigger questions, the ones that make Strange Bites episodes linger in your mind long after the story ends. What does it mean when our closest living relatives develop and maintain cultural practices that involve tools not just for survival, but seemingly for expression, signaling, and perhaps even something we might recognize as artistic or ceremonial? For a long time, we told ourselves that complex culture, symbolism, music, and ritual were what made humans unique. Behaviors like this gently but firmly push back on that wall. They suggest the roots of these capacities run much deeper in our shared evolutionary family tree than we once believed. These chimps aren't just using stones to crack nuts, which they famously do. They're using them to make sound, to create something that resonates, carries, and perhaps communicates meaning across time and space. They're returning to the same stages year after year. That persistence, that selectivity for better sounding trees, that social performance element, it blurs lines we used to draw so sharply between us and them. If chimpanzee communities can sustain traditions like this, acoustic landmarks that function almost like shared cultural memory, what does that say about the origins of human music, or marking sacred or important places of collective ritual? Are we seeing the faint echoes of behaviors that millions of years ago helped shape the foundations of our own symbolic minds? It also forces us to confront responsibility. These aren't mindless animals going through mechanical motions. They're individuals in societies with learned ways of being, ways that can be lost forever if we destroy their world. Protecting a species is one thing. Protecting living cultures within that species is something deeper. It asks us to expand our circles of moral concern. Looking ahead, continued research with camera traps, audio analysis, and careful fieldwork could reveal even more. How traditions spread between individuals, whether different groups have distinct songs or styles, and what these performances truly mean to the chimps themselves. We might discover entirely new layers of primate intelligence and communication. But time is a factor. Habitat loss doesn't wait for science to finish its questions. So the next time you hear a strange sound in the woods, or even just the wind in the trees, remember the stone drummers of West Africa. They're out there right now in the misty twilight, hurling rocks against resonant trunks, adding their own ancient rhythm to the forest. Not because they have to, but perhaps because something in them wants to. It makes you wonder, in the grand symphony of life on Earth, how many other hidden musicians are still playing, waiting for us to finally listen? Thanks for joining me on this strange bite. If this one got your mind humming, Share it with a friend who loves a good mystery wrapped in real science. And until next time, stay strange and question everything.